Somewhere inside you is a quiet question you rarely say out loud: if my childhood was fine, why does adulthood feel like I am always bracing, always proving, always apologizing for needing anything at all? The mind has a talent for normalizing what it had to survive. When neglect is the background music of development, the nervous system learns to call absence peace, emotional starvation, independence, and loneliness maturity. And later, those lessons show up as habits that look responsible, admirable, even virtuous, until you notice the hidden cost. In clinical psychology, childhood neglect is not defined by what happened to you, but by what did not happen for you. It is the chronic lack of attunement. No one reliably noticing your fear, delight, anger, confusion, or need for comfort, and responding in a way that organizes your inner world. Overt abuse leaves bruises, neglect leaves blanks. Yet the brain is built to adapt. A child cannot risk believing, "My caregivers cannot or will not meet me." That truth is too threatening. So the child's system often chooses a different conclusion: "My needs are the problem." That single pivot can shape personality, relationships, and even body sensations for decades. Attachment research calls these conclusions internal working models, implicit predictions about what happens when you reach for closeness or support. Neuroscience adds that repeated emotional non-response trains the stress system. If signals of distress are ignored, the body either turns the volume up, say anxiety, hyperarousal, or turns it down, the numbing, shutdown. Both are intelligent adaptations. The mystery is that they can look like ordinary traits: calmness, stoicism, self-sufficiency, being low maintenance. But ordinary is not the same as healthy. Habit 1. Hyper-independence that feels like a moral identity. You may pride yourself on not needing anyone, on handling problems alone, on not being a burden. On the surface, it resembles competence. Underneath, it is often an attachment strategy called deactivation. The mind suppresses bids for care to avoid the pain of disappointment. Many neglected children were praised only when they were easy, quiet, capable, undemanding, or they were pushed into adult roles early, managing siblings, emotions, or household chaos. The lesson becomes reliance equals danger. In adulthood, this can sound like, "I will just do it myself." Even when help is available, "I do not want to bother you." Even with a partner, it is not that serious. Even in crisis, notice the body receiving help may trigger unease, irritability, or a strange urge to repay immediately, as if kindness creates debt. You may even choose relationships where you can stay useful, indispensable, or the strong one, because being cared for feels foreign. Hyper-independence is not true freedom. It is a boundary built out of old disappointment. And boundaries built from fear can become cages. Habit 2. Chronic uncertainty about what you feel or need. Neglect often teaches children to move attention outward. If no one helps you name emotions, sadness, frustration, jealousy, excitement, those states remain unintegrated. Over time, many people develop alexithymia, a difficulty identifying feelings, and a dim relationship with interoception, the sense of what is happening inside the body. You may genuinely not know whether you are tired, hungry, lonely, or overwhelmed until it becomes extreme. Or you may default to a flat script: "I am fine." This is not a lack of insight, it is a learned economy. In a neglectful environment, feelings were either irrelevant or inconvenient. You adapted by muting them, intellectualizing them, or skipping straight to problem solving. Later, when someone asks, "What do you want?" your mind may go blank, or you may answer with what seems reasonable rather than what is true. You may spend years being the easygoing person who never has preferences, then suddenly erupt in resentment because the self you ignored has been keeping score. The unsettling part is how socially rewarded these habits can be. Employers love the person who never needs support. Friends admire the one who is always chill. Families prefer the child who asks for nothing. Neglect is skilled at disguising itself as virtue. But there is a third habit, more subtle, more relational, that reveals whether your calm is actually a form of surveillance. One way to distinguish adaptation from genuine preference is to watch what happens when you attempt the opposite. Ask a trusted person for a small, reasonable favor. If your chest tightens, you over-explain, or you feel shame before they answer, that is an old prediction firing. Try naming a feeling out loud, even privately. Do you find only static, or do emotions appear as symptoms? Headaches, stomach knots, sudden fatigue, because words were never offered. Neglect often converts affect into sensation. And when your own signals are muted, attention can migrate outward, toward reading and regulating others. Habit 3 is compulsive mood tracking. Reading the emotional weather in a room before you even know what you think. You notice the micro sigh, the pause in a text, the shift in tone, and your body reacts as if an alarm has sounded. To outsiders, it looks like sensitivity or empathy. Internally, it is often hypervigilance, a learned scanning for cues that predict withdrawal, criticism, or chaos. In developmental terms, a neglected child has a problem with no stable solution. Connection is necessary yet unpredictable. When caretakers are emotionally absent, the child tries to create predictability by becoming an expert observer. The brain's threat system, in limbic circuits, becomes tuned to social signals. Studies using facial expression tasks show that children with early caregiving disruption identify anger at lower intensity than peers. Their nervous systems are calibrated to detect danger early, because early detection once reduced pain. A classic demonstration is Edward Tronick's still face experiment. A mother plays normally with her infant, then suddenly holds a neutral, unresponsive face. Within seconds, the infant works harder, smiling, vocalizing, reaching, then protests, then withdraws. If your early environment included many still face moments, you may have grown up believing that your job is to reanimate other people. Adult mood tracking repeats that bid come back. Consider a composite clinical case. Daniel described himself as good in crisis. In meetings, he predicted disagreement before anyone spoke. At home, if his partner was quiet, Daniel rushed to fix it, offering solutions, jokes, snacks, anything. When asked what he feared, he said nothing. I just do not like tension. Yet in session his hands trembled when he imagined doing nothing. As a child, silence meant his father had retreated into a cold mood for days. Daniel learned that the fastest way to safety was to manage the atmosphere. His competence was real, his freedom was not. This habit often pairs with a specific coping style trauma clinicians call the fawn response, appeasing to prevent abandonment or conflict. It can look like being easy to work with, laughing at jokes that sting, agreeing quickly, or offering caretaking before it is requested. The cost: you become excellent at other people's needs and strangely disconnected from your own. You may also choose partners or friends who are moody, critical, or self-focused, because your nervous system recognizes that dance. Habit 4 is self-erasure around strong personalities. You might call it being polite, flexible, or not making it about me. But watch the sequence. Someone expresses an opinion with certainty. Your mind searches for how you might be wrong. Your throat tightens. You edit your sentence midstream. The neglected child often learned that visibility invites disappointment. If no one mirrors you, you begin to experience your own desires as intrusive. So you minimize yourself preemptively. There is a revealing laboratory finding here. In experiments on social exclusion, such as the cyberball paradigm, where participants believe they are playing an online ball-tossing game but are subtly left out, many people show a spike in distress. Individuals with histories of emotional neglect frequently show something different. They report, "I did not care." Yet their physiology tells another story, with elevated heart rate and stress hormones. That split, downplaying impact while the body flares, is the signature of self-erasure. You learn to deny the sting because protest never helped. In everyday life, self-erasure can masquerade as humility. A friend cancels and you respond, "No worries," while a heaviness settles in your chest. A coworker takes credit and you say nothing, then ruminate all night, replaying what you should have said. In relationships, you may become the therapist partner, listening endlessly while your own stories feel irrelevant or risky. When someone finally asks about you, you may feel exposed, even irritated, because being seen was never neutral. It meant being evaluated. You can see it in small decisions. Before you speak, you run a rapid calculation. Will this annoy them? Will they pull away? Even neutral faces feel loaded. In one study, adults primed with rejection memories interpreted ambiguous expressions as disapproval. The brain would rather be falsely alarmed than surprised, so you live in rehearsal most days, without noticing. Both mood tracking and self-erasure are attempts to maintain connection by controlling variables: the room's temperature, the other person's mood, your own footprint. They are brilliant strategies for a child in an emotionally thin environment. In an adult life, they can create a strange loneliness. You are surrounded by people, yet no one is actually meeting you, because they are meeting your adaptation. The counterintuitive permission is this: you are allowed to let someone be disappointed in you without chasing, fixing, or disappearing. Neglect trains the brain to treat emotional distance as an emergency. Healing begins when you teach your nervous system a new equation: discomfort is not danger, and unmet needs are information, not proof of unworthiness. To complete the picture, 3 more normal habits often cluster around the ones we've already unpacked. Habit 5: over apologizing and over explaining. You say, sorry, for asking a question, for taking up time, for having a preference. You add paragraphs of context to justify the simplest request. Psychologically, this is a preemptive self-defense. If you can frame your needs as rational and small, maybe they won't be rejected. Many neglected children learned that needing came with a price: irritation, dismissal, or emotional absence. So the adult version becomes, I will make my need impossible to criticize. The tragedy is that over-explaining often invites the very dynamic you fear. It positions the other person as judge and you as defendant. Habit 6: inability to receive. Compliments bounce off. Help feels invasive. Gifts create tension. You either refuse outright or accept with immediate repayment. This is not modesty, it's a threat response to nurturance. If warmth was inconsistent, your body may read kindness as the calm before withdrawal. Some people describe it like being allergic to care. They crave it, but when it arrives they tighten, distrust, or feel indebted. Receiving requires a stable expectation that good things can exist without a hidden cost, an expectation neglect did not install. Habit 7: constant busyness as emotional anesthesia. Productivity becomes the acceptable form of dissociation. You stay, not because you love achievement, but because stillness makes contact with old emptiness. When people finally rest, they report a flood's eye. Sadness, agitation, meaninglessness, or fatigue so deep it feels dangerous. In childhood, quiet may have meant being alone with feelings no one helped you hold. So adulthood becomes a sprint to outrun internal silence. Now the practical secret: you don't heal these habits by forcing yourself to be more vulnerable in a single leap. You heal by building what attachment researchers call earned security through tiny, repeated experiences of attunement, especially attunement with yourself. Think of it as exposure therapy for healthy dependence. Action step 1: team build an inside signal. Practice for 60 seconds a day. Set a timer. Ask what sensation is most obvious right now: tight, warm, heavy, buzzing, numb. Then label one emotion that could match it, even if you're uncertain: irritated, lonely, pressured, hopeful. End with one need word: rest, clarity, reassurance, space, support. This is not journaling for poetry, it's physical rehab for interoception. When you can detect your internal cues at low volume, you won't need a crisis to know you matter. Action step 20: create a request ladder. Write 5 requests from least risky to most. Example: I 1 ask a friend to send a link. I 2 ask a coworker for a quick opinion. 3 ask your partner to handle one errand. I 4 ask for comfort without solutions. I 5 ask for a hard boundary to be respected. Practice 1 rung per week. Your goal is not a perfect response. Your goal is to survive the feelings that arise while you wait. That waiting is where the nervous system rewires. Action step 3: replace over-explaining with one clean sentence. Use this format: I'm not available for X, I can do Y, or I'd like Z. Then stop. Notice the urge to add a legal brief. Let the urge peak and pass. This trains a new belief: your needs do not require a defense attorney. Action step 40: practice receiving without repayment. Start microscopic. When someone says, good job, respond, thank you. No minimizing. No joke. No immediate compliment back. When someone offers help, try, yes, that would help. Then breathe through the discomfort. You are teaching your body that care can arrive and nothing bad has to follow. Action step 5: schedule unproductive safety. 10 minutes, twice a week, where the only task is to be. If stillness spikes anxiety, anchor in something gentle: a warm drink, a slow walk, music that doesn't activate you. The point is to show your system quiet is not abandonment. Quiet can be a home. If you want to master this at a deeper level, don't do it alone in your head. Neglect is healed in relationship. If you want structured practice, join our community and use the weekly prompts to build your request ladder, your receiving reps, and your nervous system retraining alongside people who understand the difference between being fine and being free. Because the real sign of healing is not that you never feel the old alarm. It's that you can hear it, thank it, and still choose yourself.